just wanted to introduce our guest speaker. He's been a friend of mine. I met him about almost 20 years ago when he started at Canastota Police. I was a cop there too. Jim is, right away, you're going to get the sense that I did about him. His integrity is second to none. He is not your average politician. If he tells you something, he tells us the truth. And when he tells you something, you can bet the farm on it. He's honest, a good family man, and a very good supervisor for the police. Every job he's ever done, he has excelled right to the top. I'm proud to introduce Jim Zophy.
Hi there, and thanks for having me here today. Dan gave you a little bit about me. I think he probably said a lot more than I expected Dan to say, but that was very nice. Thanks, Dan. As he said, in the position that I'm seeking, it is a political position. I do need votes to get there. I am the police chief for the Village of Canastota Police Department. I'll give you a little bit about my background, where I came from. I grew up in Morrisville, New York. I graduated from Morrisville. I joined the military about 6 months out of high school. I was in the Air Force. While in the Air Force, I was deployed to the Gulf War. Spent about 10 months at the Gulf. I was present at Daharan Air Base when the Scud missile blew up. Came down and hit the barracks that killed the 200 service members from Pennsylvania. That's where I was at. I was actually on that scene and seen that personally, and I can share with you that the mass casualty drill that they teach on our end locally, that was something that the military sends for mass casualty cleanup that really was a learning experience to then train it locally in the civilian world and try to adapt both ends. It really prepares you for that, and I hope we don't ever have to deal with any mass casualty stuff, but I can tell you that I've seen it and learned it. I've got out of the service, worked for my father's business for a brief period of time. He had a small business at his home in Peterborough. My grandfather started the business here locally in Oneida. It was Zophy Silver Plating. My dad continued the business over here on Elm Street for a little bit, and then he took it to his home, and that's where I worked with him. Eventually I got hired with the Canastota Police Department in about 1993. While at the department, I wanted to become the type of police officer that when you called, I knew what I was talking about. I went to a basic academy. Dan happened to be my training officer when I got there. Dan kind of told me, forget about everything I told you in the academy because you're going to learn from me right now. Real good training officer. I learned a lot from Dan, but I had to learn more. When you get a police officer that comes to your door, we say it's about 5 years to actually answer the questions that people have about law enforcement, or if you have a problem, in order to handle it from a community aspect. The 5 years that it took me to get there, I also had to become an evidence technician. I had to become a narcotics investigator. I had to be a field trainer. I wanted to do what Dan did. I wanted to teach new cops. I essentially had to start designing myself around what the needs of the community would be. We only had 4 full-time police officers in the Canastota Police Department when I started as a police officer. Running the tasks that are necessary with 4 guys, you have to be the master of it all. You have to know every ounce of law enforcement. One of the things that Dan told me when he went to Syracuse Police Department was his experience at Canastota gave him that extra step above the local Syracuse City cop, because he had to do everything in Canastota. You're the investigator, you're the patrolman, you're the guy that's going to respond to the car out of gas. You're going to a domestic dispute, you're going to a burglary call, you're investigating drug abuse, drug sales. You're doing all that from a police car that's got red lights on it. In a larger agency, there are experts that are assigned to that type of policing. In a small department, you got to know them all and you got to get effective at it. And that's what I wanted to be. So I put myself in these classes and I learned as much as I could on professional training so I can answer the questions. And I think I'm very well versed from the law enforcement aspect based on what I've done in Canastota. After a brief period of time at Sergeant as a supervisor there, I was then made the police chief of the department. I've been police chief now for about 6 years. Some of the highlights for the police chief's position, designed a school resource officer program in Canastota. The schools actually pay for that program. As taxpayers, yeah, your school taxes go right directly to that program. You're not getting double dipped where the police department and the school are paying for the same program. That's not happening. We had some real good results in some things, and it would take a long time to tell you what some of them results are, but I will tell you, I'm very happy with this program. It works real well. I'd like to see that instituted, and also a resource officer program instituted countywide. Youth, in my eyes, are probably the first line of defense for the adult portion of this thing. If we can get to our kids, we can tell them you can trust the police, we can tell them that you can have friends in the police field. And we can do that by putting officers in the schools, and not, as I refer to this as we want to arrest students approach. I want them to know that we're there to ensure their safety in the school, and that we can respond to things that are going on to prevent it. Some of the other things that I've been involved in, Madison County has a major crime drug task force. We don't publish it out in the manner of the papers. You usually see in the paper Canastota, Chenango, Oneidas, and Madison County Sheriff's Department. We're involved in something that usually means a drug arrest, so on and so forth. I sat aboard trying to get a task force together to investigate drug abuse. I was at the table at least 3 times with different administrations in the northern end of the county to get people to come to the table to investigate drug sales, street level, to be able to key into this stuff that's happening, that's nuisances in your community. Where I set up another task force in the village, we had 20 businesses that were broken into in about a week and a half to 2 weeks. We actually had a location that we had officers inside when the guy walked into the door and was stealing the items out of a mom and pop shop, cigarettes and so on and so forth. That worked out very well also, and that gentleman is in state prison too. I coordinated a couple of train derailments. Not the one in Oneidas, if you remember, we had 2 in Canastota. Probably 12 years ago or better, we had the first one almost in the same spot that our second one happened. Had to coordinate the efforts amongst law enforcement, security, design NTSB with CSX police and my agency, the state police and the sheriff's department together. We're able to track our resources, know where our people were going, and we'll also send a bill to the people that were responsible for this to be able to be repaid. That was something that I worked on. With the sheriff's department, if I'm elected, I truly believe in professional education. I believe in continuing to educate our police officers on the street. I also want to share with you that this election isn't about the best cop for the job. This election is about who's going to manage the resources that are going to patrol and police the county and control your inmates. It's not all about me designing programs and making the best cops on the street be the best cops on the street, because that's what you see as the public. We got to find a way to cut costs in the jail. We got to find a way to continue to do the things that we do professionally and to make people proud of the sheriff's department. And I think by redesign, keeping some people in key locations and picking them for places that I think they'll work the best at, that's how we make a better sheriff's department. Cut the cost in the jail. There are some state programs that the Sheriff's Association is currently trying to get into. There's a prescription program. Let me ask you this question, and by a show of hands. Where in the state of New York are you guaranteed health care? Are you guaranteed health care free? Let me go there. Where in the state of New York? In jail. In jail. But the bottom line is this. I'm sure at some point in time, if I get elected, you'll see the swing. You'll see it go the other direction. And you're going to say to yourself, you know what? I was glad that I voted for this guy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.